You are cordially invited to the coronation of King Charles III.
Is that phone? Hey brother, how you doing, man?
Hello, Mr. Styles. Will you be performing at the coronation of King Charles?
No.
President Biden, we haven't heard back from you. Will you be there? Mr. President, are you there? Mr. President!
Do I just actually disconnect him?
I think you cut him off.
3 weeks later.
Oh, hi, darling.
Hi, Adele. We were cut off a few weeks ago, but we haven't heard back from you. Will you be attending?
I mean, I will probably have bad signal. I said I probably won't have good signal.
I can't go out. I'm sick.
Hello everybody and welcome to Duchess Royale, where I share my opinions and receipts on all things really interesting, but with a focus on major talking points. Some housekeeping first though. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit that notification bell so that you know when the next video is out. So let's just dive in. King Charles and his concubine side chick, turned wife, turned queen, are about to finally have their fluffy, sparkly hat wearing ceremony. I'm talking about the coronation, taking place on Prince Archie's birthday. So that is Saturday the 6th of May, to be precise, when he will be 4 years old. As for the coronation,
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you.
We don't care.
no, really we don't. But in all seriousness, the fact that most people don't really care is actually the most interesting and quite funny thing about the coronation. Other than the British establishment, as in the media and the royal family PR, there really has just been this energy of people not really caring about it that much. And in the run-up to the ceremony, several high-profile celebrities have declined to perform for the coronation concert for the king, with reasons that could be seen as a tad bit wishy-washy. And it's not just the performers. Oh no, the President of the United States of America, aka the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, declined to attend when invited by King Charles. And with less than a month to go, the royals and their friends in the British media, up until recently, waiting for the MVPs to RSVP. Yes, I'm talking about Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan. And the question of whether they were going to attend seemed to take over the discourse about the biggest day of the new king and his side chick queen's life for a hot minute. So recently we have learnt that whilst Prince Harry will attend, Meghan will be staying back, maybe washing her hair. Although to be fair, like I said, it is Prince Archie's birthday and that is a big deal. So now, Meghan kindly declining the invite has taken over the discourse about the biggest day of the new king and his side chick queen's life. In this video, I wanted to look at the lead up to the coronation and how it's been tainted by past misdemeanours of the new monarch, King Charles, but also by snubbings left, right and centre, and how for royal watchers, it's looking like such a hot mess for what is supposed to be a major historical event of the decade. Yet instead, it could end up being a damp squib. So let's look at the details of the coronation plan and how people feel about it.
Come on. Get a grip. Come on, punch through.
Operation Golden Orb is the name given to the planning of King Charles's coronation, and it's safe to say that the Operation Golden Orb, well, it's just not orbing. The coronation organisers are well aware of this, with a YouGov poll suggesting that 52% of Britons are just not interested in this coronation. So it's actually quite hilarious that there's so much talk about various aspects about it, such as which royal will get to go on the balcony and wave at the peasants below. Honestly, that damn balcony, it's almost as if it has magical powers which will suddenly make the general public give a hoot about the coronation.
We do not care.
Now, although it's not possible to speak for everyone, I can safely say that especially in this current cost of living crisis and the transition from the Queen to Charles, it really does feel like for a lot more of the British public, again,
nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Despite this, there was no way that this was going to stop Charles, who has been waiting for his mother to die for the last 50 years or so, to finally get his work promotion, and therefore to also get his coronation celebration too. Now, the palace have said that the coronation will be a scaled down event, with just 2,000 guests as opposed to the 8,000 that attended in 1953 for his mother's coronation. Instead of the 3-hour church ceremony had in 1953, Charles's own one will only last an hour. Also, instead of the 2-hour 5-mile coronation procession that the Queen had, Charles's procession will only be 1 mile long on a much more contained route from Westminster Abbey and then back on the same route back to the palace. Now, Charles has said that the scaled down celebrations are to take into account the cost of living crisis, but
he's a liar. You sit on a throne of lies.
You see, having less guests and a short procession route doesn't appear to make a difference cost-wise, especially when the following day there will be a big concert scheduled to take place at Windsor, apparently featuring big acts from all over the world. So anyway, a scaled down event? Where? In my opinion, the only scaling down is in the length of the coronation service and the procession route. That's all. And the scaled down narrative is really being used as a defensive shield to protect and cover up for Charles and Camilla, who, well, they don't really benefit from as much public support and goodwill that the Queen had when she was alive. Unfortunately for Charles, the public seem to have no qualms telling him how they really feel, just like this guy did.
Charles, while we struggle to heat our homes, we have to pay for your parade.
Thank you for coming.
The taxpayer pays $100 million for you, and what for? Me from Brennan, not my king.
The cost of living crisis is a big issue in the UK right now. People don't have the money that they used to have. Inflation is high, tax and food prices are high, and the economic situation is a mess, Charles. So putting on an expensive hat-wearing ceremony was always going to raise eyebrows. The cost of living coronation is just a ruse to appease the uninterested but cash-strapped public, as this so-called scaled-down coronation is still said to be costing over a whoppingly obscene £100 million of taxpayer money. That's double what his mother's coronation cost. And ultimately, the whole purpose of these events are to display unimaginable wealth, pomp and pageantry, and the idea that King Charles and his side piece are somehow better than the rest of us. I mean, it is all in the family motto. Yep. Doué mon droit is a way of saying in French, I have divine right to govern. I have to hand it to the royals because they literally have no shame. This king, a man who spent a lifetime committing adultery, is now the supreme governor of the Church of England. I mean, make it make sense. However, I digress. Back onto the coronation. This scaled down coronation is necessary.
How, Sway?
Because Charles and his former side piece are not all that popular. And this is an old-fashioned way of asserting authority and encouraging people to see them as special. Even those that support them have noted that the shorter coronation process is much likely because they will be aware that they don't have the same pulling power that the Queen had.
They were worried again about booers along. They wanted to keep the procession short so that the crowds would be bigger, and also the fact, they are basically kettling, and they're going down the same route and then back up the same route. So the same people are going to see the royal couple twice.
Oh, not again!
And it said that there will be special invites for NHS workers who will be invited to the coronation by the King. Not to watch the service from the comfort of the Westminster Abbey, but to watch it from outside Buckingham Palace in the cold, on what is said to be a special viewing space outside Buckingham Palace in the cold. Let that sink in. Anyway, roaming through those Twitter streets, it seems that some people were on the same page as me. So there was a post put up by Royal PR reporter Russell Myers, which said, NHS workers get King's coronation invite, while Tories, as in the government, still snub them over pay. So this user in reply said, this isn't a flex, hun. Inviting public workers to create crowds isn't in the interest of NHS workers, but the King. If the King cared, he could cancel the coronation and give the money to NHS staff who are relying on food banks. Another one said, so NHS staff are invited to Charles's coronation to fill seats and make it look more important for him. Going back home to cold homes and hungry kids. Sorry, but it's not good enough. And another one. To NHS staff invited to the coronation, that doesn't pay bills either, but can be used to boost an unpopular monarch. Aren't you fed up of being used yet? Now, I must add that when it comes to royal events, you are always going to have those hardcore royalists, you know, the ones that wave their flags and wear all the royal merchandise and everything. Well, they will turn up at these events come rain or shine. And also, because so much has been said and the warning has gone out that the crowds might be sparse for this coronation, that actually might in fact galvanise them to make more of an effort to show up. But make no mistake about it, the royals are worried. The Queen's coronation procession was 5 miles and 16,000 people showed up and showed out for her.
But wait, there's more.
For the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, they, you know, all the towns and the boroughs have to apply to throw a street party, a celebration of 16,000. For the coronation, they put out the same 16,000 applications.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
So there were 16,000 parties around the country. For the coronation, they put out the same invitation. Who wants to have a party?
We're going to guess here. We're going to have a
and how many people are going to have them? 240.
What?
240. And one of the boroughs that said no, not interested, is the local council around Highgrove in the Cotswolds, where Prince Charles lives. There is a lot of apathy about this.
There is a lot of apathy.
Charles's reign as monarch has been anything but smooth. And to be honest, it was always going to be hard to take over from his mother, who held the position for the last 70 years and for the most part was loved by most. And with the death of the Queen came the rebirth of the anti-monarchy movement. This is led by a group called the Republic, who have been turning up, harassing Charles and Camilla to protest outside their engagements with more vim and pepper than ever before. And this is all to let him know that he is, as they say, not their king.
Not my king! 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 Charles, why are you wasting our money on your pointless parade? Charles, why are you wasting money on your pointless parade, Charles?
In addition to the protests, there have been several engagements where Charles and Camilla have had to dodge eggs being thrown at them.
Just some breaking news to bring you now, and a report from the Press Association that a man has been detained by police after appearing to throw eggs at the King and Queen consort during a walkabout at Micklegate Bar in York.
King Charles didn't exactly receive a warm welcome during his visit to York.
This has had nothing to do with the group Republic. In fact, on both occasions where this happened, one in York, the other in Luton, the egg throwers were young men aged 21 and I think the other one was 23. So Charles and Camilla were essentially being egged by the very demographic that is paramount to the survival of the monarchy.
For young people, decline in support appears starker. In the new poll, less than a third of 18 to 24-year-olds said the monarchy should continue, compared to 64% back in 2013.
Do you care about the monarchy? Is it something you support?
No. I wouldn't say I don't care, but I'd say it's not necessarily something that I'm invested in. I'd say I wasn't invested in it.
The only person I know who does support the monarchy is my gran, and she loves it.
Charles has a problem with Gen Z. The future of the monarchy for Charles and for William and the popular support which they need is really in the balance when it comes to the younger people.
This important, young, next generation are exactly the demographic that the royals have desperately tried to get on board. But this demographic are showing that they are woke. And when I say woke, I'm talking about the true meaning of woke, which is about fairness and justice and being in support of that. They don't subscribe to the idea of the monarchy, which is all to them about inequality. So far in Charles's reign, we have had protests, egg throwers, and add to that the opinions shared on social media to the mix. It's pretty clear that the age of deference to the royals is dying a little bit. It's therefore no surprise that organising such a huge event for a more challenging audience would be a bit problematic. But who would have thought that another issue would be getting people to perform and RSVP to the biggest event of the year?
The celebrations include a star-studded concert at Windsor Castle. Except with less than 10 weeks to go, Buckingham Palace appears to be having some serious trouble locking in stars. British icons Sir Elton John, Adele, Ed Sheeran, Harry Styles and even Robbie Williams have all reportedly rebuffed offers to perform, blaming conflicting schedules. And a Spice Girls reunion is apparently off the cards too.
Let's keep this 100. Elton could have performed if he wanted to. After all, he cancelled 2 concerts, not one, but 2 concerts in Las Vegas to ensure that he was at Prince Harry's wedding. As it says here, Elton is a great friend and seemingly a father figure to Prince Harry.
Thank you for being the friend that you were for my mum. Thank you for being our friend. Thank you for being friends to our kids. And thank you for entertaining people right around the world.
So I have no doubt that Elton's inability to perform at the coronation is because of his friendship with Prince Harry and Meghan, but also because of his loyalty to his late dear friend Diana. It's actually very cheeky of King Charles to think that Elton would perform for the celebrations of a man and a woman that tormented his friend Diana and made a large part of her life a misery, and are now seemingly trying to do the same thing to her son and her son's wife, Prince Harry and Meghan. I mean, come on now, behave. In fact, though these high-profile stars will not admit it officially, many commentators have taken the view that the real reason that they have declined to perform for Charles is because of the tainted royal brand. It's a brand that has been tainted by many issues such as colonialism, adultery, Prince Andrew. Gone are the days when there is a royal brand steeped in mystique but respect. Instead, their ill treatment of certain family members and deals done allowing British press and royal reporters to literally maul and harass those chosen ones for sensational headlines in order to protect and uplift other members has sadly made the brand Jerry Springerish and not at all so regal. This right-wing commentator hits the point exactly as I believe it to be, that it's making the monarchy trashy and less relevant.
What I actually think is going to be the problem is that to make the royal family relevant, it can't be around this feud. They've got to be able to do contributing more to our society rather than us being entertained by this sort of friction that's going on within this family. And I think they've got to get on top of that, because if every time we hear about the royal family, it's just about what the feud is, long term, that's going to be disastrous for them.
Such an own goal. It's also been said that Kylie Minogue is the newest celebrity to turn down an offer to perform at the coronation concert, with her reasons being the growing anti-monarchy sentiment in her own country, Australia. Ouch. I don't know how true this is, but what is clear is that, like I said before, the palace has a problem. Although there will always be people who will perform if the price is right, and the price was obviously right for the main current performers, being the remaining 3 of Take That, Katy Perry and Lionel Richie, who makes up 2/3 of the American Idol panel. I mean, the only American Idol judge not asked to perform was country artist Luke Bryan. And when asked about this, he said he wasn't aware of what a coronation was, and he thought it was some form of condensed milk. Now, I don't know about you, but it sounds like he just couldn't give a... Oh, look, a flying duck. Anywho, this lineup is littered with performers who really have had their time. And getting artists of the moment has been a real issue.
Think of all the acts that are performing as well. They could have been acts that were doing it like 20 years ago. So many people, modern acts, turned down the opportunity to perform there.
So these big stars declining invites shows again that Charles and Camilla just do not have that pulling power or the level of respect needed to make people just want to drop everything and perform for him instead. You know, like Elton did for the Sussexes.
This, PR-wise, isn't great, and this has diverted the narrative from the excitement and the buzz about the coronation to suddenly being, why won't anyone play there?
Aside from officially crowning and celebrating the new king and queen, I believe that the main point of the coronation is to showcase the power, the regalness, the influence and the authority of the monarchy. It's to build loyalty and to reinstill that deference that subjects of the monarchy used to have, which has dwindled drastically in the UK. It's for the world to watch the king and his former concubine ascend to the highest office in the land and to encourage others to view the UK as great. And again, build that respect for the monarch and the monarchy around the world, especially in the Commonwealth countries, where support for the monarchy is fading.
Please pardon, but I can't bring myself to say King Charles III. I cannot. Why? In 2022 in Jamaica, the head of state of Jamaica is King Charles III. Lord, Mrs., come on. No.
Ish. The idea is to reignite that fire and to hope that Commonwealth countries will be bowled over by the pomp and pageantry and see the monarchy and the monarch as something special and not want to get rid of Charles as their head of state. I hate to tell you this, but this is nearly as impossible as getting that star-studded lineup and A-listers to RSVP to the coronation invite. I mean, the desperation to get powerful, influential people to attend this coronation is palpable, as evidenced by Joe Biden declining his invite and basically being hounded by the right-wing media monarchists who were throwing tantrums that the President of the United States would not be attending.
But this decision by the President and his team is an extraordinary insult to the United Kingdom.
Biden loves the Irish, he hates the British.
Jeez. Despite no former American president attending a British coronation, ever, the right-wing media just wouldn't let it go, and they decided to take umbrage with Joe Biden, labelling his non-attendance as a snub. Jesus take the wheel. The reaction to Biden declining the invite is quite frankly unhinged, embarrassing, and it really just exposed how lacking in star power the coronation seemed like it was going to be, and also some serious self-esteem issues the UK was having. Yep, Biden was needed for the guest list in order to turn around the narrative of the coronation being one that public figures didn't care about and didn't bother about going to. They need Biden, the leader of the free world, in order to up the grandeur of the coronation. Biden, who recently went to Northern Ireland, had hordes of people lining up the streets for him.
This is what it's like on Tone Street in Ballina tonight. Hundreds and hundreds of people queuing up all the way down towards the River Moy to go and see Joe Biden.
Pretty decent crowd, right? Charles and Camilla can draw a crowd, but these days it seems mainly full of Republican protesters. Therefore, they need people like Biden, who is well respected, to almost validate and endorse this coronation, but also, very importantly, to get Americans on side, watching it too, and understanding that a coronation is not a can of condensed milk. But at this point, I feel like Charles and Camilla would probably struggle getting ex-reality TV contestants to attend. What's amusing to some is that the right-wing media still bring everything back to Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan. Yet they do this whilst constantly claiming that Harry and Meghan are no longer relevant. So, for example, they've said that famous people are distancing themselves from Harry and Meghan and that America has fallen out of favour with them. But on the other hand, they also allege that they have the power to influence the leader of the free world, and they blame him for his decision to decline the coronation invite.
Ernest Owens, isn't this just another extension of the damage that Harry and Meghan are causing to the royal family and to the UK? Because Biden adores Harry and Meghan, but he hates the royal family.
I think that that's a far reach. I think.
To be honest, Harry and Meghan are loved by the Bidens, and who knows, I'm sure that the Sussexes could influence them on other things, but on this occasion, nah. Biden isn't coming because he just doesn't want to, just like all the other presidents before him, and it really isn't by fire or by force. These right-wing royalists and royal reporters sure do a lot of projecting. A lot of their predictions and their observations on Meghan and Harry's standing in society and their status is generally far from the reality for the Sussexes and more the reality for the other royals, because the main discourse surrounding the coronation, aside from the fact that they can't find anyone of real and current star power to perform, has been about Harry and Meghan, who since Spare has come out have been minding their own business in Montecito. The main question that these people wanted answered initially was if Meghan and Harry would attend the coronation. Now let's not beat around the bush. The presence of Harry and Meghan would have made this coronation super watchable, and more people would have tuned in to see them if the royal family would have allowed them to be shown. I mean, you know, they wouldn't want to give them that opportunity for this fire strut like they did last time.
All the pretty girls walk like this, 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 this. Let me see you walk, 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 walk.
Their star power and presence would bring glamour, intrigue, and quite importantly, international media. So single-handedly, they would easily turn this coronation from trash to flash. We saw that as the weeks went by and the coronation has been drawing closer. While waiting to hear if they would be attending, the Harry and Meghan coronation narrative whipped up by the British media has changed significantly, from cocky, thinking that they would definitely come, to pathetically desperate when they took their time RSVPing. So now that Harry is attending and Meghan isn't, the media have moved into the outrage phase because they know that Harry plus Meghan equals better mathematics. They also know, through the reports, that Harry will fly down for the coronation and will be in and out of there, heading back to Montecito before you can say,
the freedom flight.
If you do not know, this option of Harry coming minus Meghan eats into these royal reporters' money because, woo, the clickbait titles if Meghan came would have been wild and endless. I'm telling you, British tabloids can spin a narrative and stories from just one event for years and years. But not only that, it's not a great look for the coronation, which King Charles is trying to make look like one that embraces diversity in the UK. What does it say to the Commonwealth when the very and only member in the royal family, being a biracial woman who is married to the fifth in line to the throne, doesn't attend? It just makes people realise that this is not a monarch that can unite and build communities when his own family is so broken. Let's not get it twisted. Meghan is not the only one on Team Sussex that has dipped out of the coronation. Harry has most certainly too. Yes, he'll be there physically, but emotionally? No. He's like Patrick Swayze, ghost. It's so very obvious. Can you remember way back in May last year, 2022, when the Sussexes announced that they were attending the Queen's Jubilee? They released a statement which said as follows: Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are excited and honoured to attend the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations this June with their children. Did you hear that? They used words like honoured, excited, celebrations. So it's really clear that both Harry and Meghan were pumped to attend in order to honour the Queen for her special day. So let's look at the statement that Harry released to say he'll be attending the coronation. Oh, wait, he didn't. It was actually Buckingham Palace that released a statement saying that they were pleased to confirm that Prince Harry would be attending while Meghan would stay in California. Now, I just know that Harry had no enthusiasm for it at all. And so, you know, when you're made to do something you don't want to do and you're asked, do you want to tell everyone or should I? And you just say, I'm good, you do it. I bet that was Harry. It's humorous that the British right-wing media have engaged in reverse psychology by trying to make gullible people believe that Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan are desperate to be part of the coronation and that they need this to be connected to the royal brand, which is a royal brand that, as we've seen, is dying a slow death with the cool kids not really being that interested. So Meghan not coming again dents that narrative, as it's an indication that, just like the cool kids, she's not interested either in the ticket to the coronation. She's not desperate for their royal branding, which, as we've seen, is marred with protests and the "Not My King" chants. Honestly, I wonder if they sometimes forget that it was Harry and Meghan that chose to leave the monarchy, not the other way round. But they still persist, including referencing petty trivial things, like saying Prince Harry will be denied a part in the ceremony and will not get the best seats in the Abbey. When really, the only seats Harry seems to be desperate to get is one on the plane heading back to Montecito. So we have a woman who would rather stay at home than attend a historic event, and a man that has RSVP'd after the deadline date and didn't even bother to release a statement himself to say he was coming. These are not people that are ecstatic to be at the shiny hat party. Maybe he'll stay in town for a bit for his own business, like, for example, attending court cases. But really, this all sounds like a man that has unshakable ties to a toxic institution and has had to show up for a party that he doesn't really want to be at, by fire and by force. So, yes, while he's going to be there, physically, I do think that it's really clear that there is an emotional snubbing by Prince Harry, and that clouds his attendance. If Meghan was to join Harry, then, woo, who knows? The Archbishop might just forget the one who is supposed to be crowned and crown Meghan the Queen of England instead. Since apparently she seems to be able to run things in the UK remotely from California. The amount of attention the media give to her is ridiculous. For instance, a recent video of her giving a speech about her friend photographer whilst wearing a new hairstyle and looking all sun-kissed, and also her living her best life, having a date night with her husband at a basketball game, has generated a month's worth of column inches and discussion in one day.
And less than a fortnight before the biggest day in the monarchy's recent history, they're again out in force, making sure the headlines are all about them.
Our next speaker has an unmatched eye for a good photograph. I've experienced his talent firsthand as he has captured many meaningful milestones for me and my family.
There's shy and retiring Meghan, ostensibly introducing her photographer friend at a talk this week, but of course unsubtly debuting a new look that apparently we're told is more Paltrow than Princess. Either way, we haven't seen her since Harry's acidic memoir pumped 416 pages of poison into the royal debate. So why now? Well, I think we can guess, right? Well, earlier this week, we were treated to, well, I don't know what you call these pictures.
She can sniff a camera lens out at 3 miles. I mean,
she looks great.
But she knows she looks great. And
thank you, Isabel. This is just a photo. I mean, this is a
She sniffs the lens.
They aim for vulnerable people like you.
Yeah, so why?
I mean, they want you to say she looks great.
Why is it on the front page of the Telegraph? It doesn't have to be. I mean, you accuse them of playing the game. We play the game. So we have stories about the coronation. 4,000 stories are about whether Harry and Meghan are going to be there. I mean, are we interested in the coronation or are we interested in Harry and Meghan? The media love Harry and Meghan and they love being rude about them.
Well, yeah.
What does it say when the right-wing media are scared that a woman going to a basketball game could potentially overshadow the buzz and the talk of what's supposed to be a major historic event just weeks away? Her non-attendance will also be an awful reminder about how she has been treated so badly by the family and how it looks like she's still being treated.
And that I wasn't just
being thrown to the wolves, I was being fed to the wolves.
So much so that she probably doesn't feel comfortable being in the presence of these people. And well, life is too short to hang out with family who will feed the press nasty false stories on you via palace sources and then tell you to hush your beak and don't defend yourself. So they've just created this hostile environment for her to be around. To be honest, many people certainly wouldn't show up to a meaningless event where they would have to negotiate their security. The security that the monarch has had a hand in pulling and may have actually been the one specifically to order it being pulled. Indeed, many people in Meghan's situation certainly wouldn't turn up to what might feel like a pointless parade where her every move will be analysed, criticised and discussed by body language experts in negative articles.
Again, look at that photo. She's a little bit in front of him again. Their touching is inappropriate in these circumstances.
Protecting your peace and that of your kids in that situation will probably be the main priority. Like I've alluded to, Meghan's non-attendance will also mean less international media, because now it feels like just another almost regular royal event.
I'm going to just say I'm actually not excited.
I'm not excited about it.
I find it really difficult. I'm not.
Where's the glamour? There's no glamour.
Charles
and
Camilla. I mean, they're not very exciting.
When I look back on the Queen's Jubilees, there was much more buzz and excitement. And when it came to the organising of the last Jubilee celebrating the Queen's 70th year on the throne, there was little anti-monarchy or cost of living discussion, despite the fact that we were in a cost of living crisis which started the year before in 2021. So why has there been such disruption to this one? Well, to understand the present, you sometimes have to go back and reflect on the past. If you want to know your future, then look at your past. Albert Einstein. This quote couldn't be more suited to King Charles because it's his checkered past that has had such a profound effect on his future and a big impact on his standing as the new monarch. Despite his 70-year wait as the longest-serving apprentice, even Men in Black Neuralizer could not remove the stains of his past and make people forget. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. I'm referring to his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles and his treatment of Diana in their marriage. Let me remind you.
You may recall seeing a picture of me sobbing in a red coat when he went off on his aeroplane. The most awful thing had happened before he went. I was in his study talking to him about his trip. The telephone rang. It was Camilla. Just before he was going for 5 weeks. So I thought, shall I be nice or shall I just sit here? So I thought I'd be nice, so I left them to it. And it just broke my heart there.
His affair was leaked in 1993 when the papers published extracts of a taped conversation he had with Camilla in what I believe was one of the biggest royal scandals of the century, and this had made such an imprint in people's minds.
He's a man of no morals. He shouldn't even be installed as head of the Church of England. This is a man who married a woman happily, so she thought. 2 weeks later, he went off to see his mistress.
However, Roy, listen, it was 25, 26 years ago, my friend.
It doesn't matter. His morals are his morals.
Oof.
I'm very aware of the way in which Diana was pushed to the side and died, and that's what I think of, and the two of them should really be ashamed of themselves. Okay. Charlie has always tried to say that he wants his new wife to be a queen, but I think nearly everybody I know disagrees with it. I don't know anyone in this area.
All the callers have said what you said, Tony. Thank you very much. So, gosh, that's the whole sequence of people saying, I almost hope Camilla's not watching.
Face it, I mean, look at where we're up to now. We've got two divorcees on the throne. You've got Prince Charles, the Royal Sanitary Towel. That's his own description of himself. And we got Camilla, the Royal Floozy.
Ooh, don't know if that's fair, David.
Worry about upsetting those.
Now, I won't expand on Tampongate, but if you know, you know. In addition to the affair expose, Diana got to share her story in her bombshell interview with Martin Bashir. The interview was compelling and gave an insight into her tortured existence in the royal family and helped demystify and debunk the fairy tale notion of being a princess in the royal family. A lasting memory from that interview was the now famous quote,
"Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded."
Woo! For a lot of people, that line still hits the same as it did in 1994. Just like the legacy of the Diana interview, which has been a thorn in the side of Charles ever since, and of course Camilla in her efforts to rehabilitate her image over the years. Imagine, even 25 plus years later, people are still feeling sour and very much Team Diana in relation to how she was treated in that whole sordid affair. And definitely this has slowly chipped away and tainted the royal brand and the magic and the respect we're supposed to have for it, and in particular King Charles and Camilla, and that definitely casts a shadow over the coronation. As we get nearer to the coronation date, nothing much has changed, and despite the best efforts of the royal reporters, or should I say the extended PR team of the palace and other stakeholder institutions to drum up interest, there still doesn't seem much enthusiasm about this coronation. Now again, as I've said before, you will always have the royalists out in full force on coronation day. But there is a sense in the air that the tide is really turning, especially among the groups of once apathetic subjects who are now moving towards the anti-monarchy camp, and their voices have been quite loud during the run-up to the coronation. Sky News tried one of those tweets where they tried to get their 8.3 million followers to ask a question about the coronation, which would be answered on a special Q&A show that they seem to be planning to air close to the date of the coronation. Now, when I tell you that this was a bad idea, believe me, it was a bad idea. Let me explain. I think that thinking that their followers would be pumped, excited and looking forward to the coronation with lots of constructive questions, the questions posted by them were anything but that. Let me just give you a taste of some of the responses, which in total were in the thousands. Let's look at this user called Grumps. So he said, or she, "Can the Windsor family's performative caring and performative philanthropy still fool the public into believing the Windsors are altruistic?" Then there was Matt. "What's the best milkshake to throw to get the best coverage?" Oh dear. The next one, this one said, "If Charles can't even unite the family, how does he think he can unite the country? He's respectfully lame." Bob Goodword said, "This anachronistic, parasitic family, its privilege, its faux concern, the self-serving, the hypocrisy, the damage to democracy, the profligate spending, the insidious creep into every facet of life is nothing less than a cancer on the UK. True or false? Hashtag not my king." A lot of words there. Tell us how you really feel. Charity said the UK doesn't feel much like celebrating. When British people are using food banks, worrying about paying their bills, struggling with heating their homes and feeding their families, such an extravagant display of unearned wealth and entitlement would seem to be in bad taste. And then lastly, Cromwell said, "Coronation. Why is a taxpayer covering the obscene 150 million cost of your shiny hat party when you've just inherited 630 million from the Queen and 70 million from the Queen Mother, both sums tax-free, ? And then a nice, maybe not so nice picture of Prince or King Charles. And of course, there were some questions asked about Prince Andrew, which I will not repeat here. Sky News reposted this tweet with the question a few times on different days, hoping to probably to get a better set of responses and questions that they could answer on a show. Picking out light and fluffy questions would be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So what is clear is that what may have worked seamlessly in 1953 is not working smoothly in 2023, and people are just tired. Surprisingly, one of the head Karens on the Loose Woman panel, monarchist and Harry and Meghan hater, couldn't muster up enthusiasm for the coronation herself when she was asked if she was excited, which is a bit of a surprise, but check out this clip.
Are you excited, Jane? No. And I feel this is a real pivotal moment for the monarchy. And you know, I think it is the law of diminishing returns, and I think King Charles knows that, which is why he's scaling it down a little bit. I think it, you know, probably ultimately it will become about they're good for tourism, but as for the rest of it, the pomp and the ceremony, I don't really know if it has a place anymore.
Now that was a surprise, and it is a problem for the monarchy when you have hardcore royalists that usually are defending the royal family to the hilt, but then are now admitting that they're not only not excited about the coronation, but also not excited about the future of the monarchy. To blag, to convince by rhetoric, to gain acceptance or approval through persuasiveness or trickery. The lack of enthusiasm for the coronation, even from royalists, really puts a question mark over the ongoing success of the monarchy. That Loose Woman panellist went on to say this.
Really? I'm going to put it out there that we might have a King George, but it will be in a very, very diminished...
A sort of Scandinavian style.
I think it's just going to go, and then it will just be, you know, really, really low-key by then, if we even get to that.
Yeah.
Now, agreeing with Karen's really makes me feel nauseous and uncertain about myself as a person. But I do think that she may be onto something when she says that by the time we get to King George, the monarchy as we know it will probably be very different and less prominent. So this circles back to why the coronation today, this age that we're in now, is so very important. Not for the citizens really, but for the monarchy. And why they are ignoring those who are questioning the expense and the necessity of the King's parade, since he's already king and doesn't actually need a ceremony to be king. No royal family member and new monarch wants to be the one that is seen as responsible for the demise of the monarchy, which has been in place for centuries now. So see this coronation as the monarchy fighting to retain their position. As loud as these dissenting voices are, the monarchy and the powers that be are hoping that they are drowned out by supporters and hyped up more by royalists by the time that the coronation arrives. Another thing the monarchy have at their disposal is powerful entities and bodies such as the Tory government. Here's the Prime Minister of England, Rishi Sunak, doing his very, very best to hype up King Charles. And I think I'm just going to go and get a bucket on this one.
Well, I'd say, I'm the Prime Minister, he's the King. But, you know, every week we talk. I tell you one thing is, you know, when I have these conversations with him, I can see just how unbelievably committed he is to serving our country. Mm-hmm. And, you know, his strong desire to represent everybody, you know, from every walk of life, as we were talking about before. And I think he does that really brilliantly, and he deserves a lot of praise for that.
The royal family's extended PR team of royal reporters and the newspapers, terrestrial TV and general media industry, who will do everything and have been doing as much as possible to pump up the buzz for the coronation. There will most likely be collusion with these bodies to make the crowd look bigger, to conflate crowd numbers and viewing figures if they can, in order to make it seem like the coronation is a success. This is what they did also for the Queen's funeral. For example, think back to that 24-hour queue that members of the public had to wait in to see the Queen's coffin lying in state. That is, unless you were Philip Schofield or Holly Willoughby. But apparently this was manipulated and there was no reason for the line to be that long. It has been asserted that it was purposefully organised that way so that it would look like a hot mess and look like there was just too many people coming to see the coffin, and therefore to convey to the world just how important and respected the Queen supposedly was. Now, in this video news clip about the reactions to the Queen's death around the world, the reporter says this.
It's thought the global audience has been as many as 4 billion people.
4 billion? Really? Put a sock in it. You can see from the various articles here that they just seem to pluck this figure of 4 billion as an estimate for the funeral viewing figures from thin air. But despite the UK enforcing 10 days of mourning and putting the funeral on a bank holiday where all the terrestrial TV channels were showing the same funeral footage, basically giving people without cable no other option but to watch a funeral, as reports have shown here, the viewing figures for the funeral were actually beaten by football. So the viewing figures of the Euros then was over 30 million, whereas the Queen's funeral peaked at around 28 million. Another interesting fact, as reported here, is that the Queen's funeral was actually beaten by Princess Diana's funeral, which had viewing figures of over 32 million. Now, personally, I believe that Princess Diana was loved a bit more than the Queen, and this likely fact was and is probably a hard pill to swallow for the royal family and the British establishment, which is the reason they probably went to all these lengths to force people to watch the Queen's funeral, and secondly to over-exaggerate and conflate viewing figures. Also, in case you didn't know, it's interesting to note that in the States, more people watched the Harry and Meghan interview with Oprah Winfrey, and that was around 17.1 million to be precise, as opposed to the 11 million that watched the Queen's funeral in the US. So there's simple maths there, and if you think about America being one of the biggest populations in the world with over 331 million people, but only 11 million watching the funeral, you have to ask how they got to this estimate of 4 billion watching it worldwide. Funnily enough, I am yet to see any reports after the funeral to legitimise this claim of 4 billion viewers. The coronation currently appears to be a hot mess at the moment, and the fact that there is so much talk about how difficult the organisation of the coronation has been means that the bar has already been set low, so that anything above it will probably be seen as a success, and most likely they will put it off, and we'll see a decent amount of crowd for that 1 mile stretch, and many happy patriotic people, and what looks like a slick slice of pomp and pageantry. But it can't be denied that the lead up to this coronation might be an ominous foreshadowing, where it's been marred with polls showing a significant decline in interest, protests including egg throwing, snubbing from celebrities, presidents, and the couple of the royal family with the star power, and who incidentally are the interracial blend that represent modernity and diversity that the UK wants to showcase. And behind the scenes, I don't know, I think that there are worries which, okay, they may not materialise so much now, but there could be worries that will materialise in the future. And certainly, bearing in mind, for example, some of the adjustments that have been made to the coronation route, I think that this is evidence that the monarchy is not as confident as it used to be. Regardless, I'm sure that we will be encouraged by the British establishment and the TV shows to see the coronation as a success. And obviously they'll be making sure that they show selected footage to encourage that belief. Since watching the coronation is not a sign of support of the monarchy, I actually agree with the views of Professor Kate Williams here.
To the Queen's. I think that we are going to see quite high viewing figures, because I think that there's this fascination with the ritual that goes right back to William the Conqueror in 1066, goes back earlier, and the whole principle of putting a crown or the monarch, a kind of hat on the monarch, and the monarch carrying a stick. So I think there is a lot of interest in the coronation, in the ceremony. We're the only monarchy in Europe that has one. We can't replicate what it was for the Queen's coronation. And I have seen a lot of people saying that they're not interested or they don't want street parties, and that there's less interest in the monarchy overall. So this is the monarchy's battle now after the coronation to get people back, particularly young people. And I think it's going to be a tough battle.
But let's wait and see. And by that, I'm thinking of not just about the coronation day and the crowds that attend, but what happens in the future and in this new era of King Charles III. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. Please do leave a comment down below. I do love reading them, but also like, share, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know when the next video is out. But for now, peace and I'm out.